All right, and we are live. So this is the first forever episode of Business Acceleration Playbook live. So Business Acceleration Playbook giving you the plays you need to help your business win. So we've got some super, yeah, I know it's lame, but I am sticking by it and I love it. So quit laughing at me. But anyway, so Ray Baxter is unable to be here today. So Ray, hope you're feeling better soon. But we have Jeff Dwoskin. I still want to say Dwowskin, so I'll probably say that a million times. And then we
Wow,
have
wow, wow.
Wow, so yeah, and then Angela Buckley. I'm here today, and I'm super excited. They are a couple of our panel members, along with Ray Baxter. So we are going to. I'm pretty excited. We're going to be having some pretty cool guests on, be able to teach a lot of these entrepreneurs and business owners and aspiring business owners some different things about how to really excel in their business because there's so many aspects of it. And I know I say this a lot that, we start a business for that, one or two things we do amazingly. And that doesn't mean that we do all the things amazingly. And actually, most of the time, we super suck at some of them. So it's important to bring on, people who do excel in these areas. And, I'm excited to get some valuable nuggets of information. So I'm going to let Jeff go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll go to Angela.
Hi, Maria. Great to be here. Thanks for putting this together. And I loved your tagline. It was great. It was
You're
great.
welcome. I've seen judgment, but that's fine.
It wasn't judgment. It was just the first time I heard it. It was my legit response.
Yeah.
Joy. I'm Jeff Dwoskin, digital entrepreneur, stand-up comedian, product guy. So I've been involved in the digital space since the late 90s, had a bunch of my own businesses along the way, worked for some big billion-dollar companies along the way. My main focus and passion is digital and helping brands maximize engagement on social media.
That's awesome. So, and he's super funny too on the side. He's a comedian and has jeffisfunny.com. I just wanted to go ahead and plug that. And then Angela, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Angela Buckley, and I have been working in manufacturing for over 25 years. And really, my kind of hallmark to fame is focusing on efficiency. So I look at systems and I ask, how can we do this more effectively? How can we do it more efficiently? Really driving down those costs and driving up your, money, right? Like we want to earn some of that once in a while. Um, so that can be from a systems perspective, but it can also go drive down into your personal effectiveness and personal organization work too. So really spanning that gamut of large organizational structure down to individual day to day. What can we do to really make your day most effective?
Absolutely. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs are visionaries. So do you consider yourself, I don't know if you've ever read the book, Rocket Fuel. I quote that book. I feel like I quote that book like all the time actually. But I need to start like reaching out and be like, hey, I talk about y'all like a lot. But they talk about visionaries and integrators and kind of the differences between that. Have you ever read that book before?
I have not read it, and I read quite a bit, so
And
I
it's
should
a
add
more
it to my list.
and there's actually a test you can take that helps determine if you are a visionary or an integrator. And I really wasn't so shocked whenever I was a 98% on visionary and only like a 38% on integrator because I get
Hmm.
super bored with the step by step structure. I like to get a working machine and then I'm bored. So it seems like a lot of entrepreneurs that I've spoken with anyway that they're more on the visionary side. It just makes me wonder with you being an engineer that you're probably more on the integrator side, that you love the intricate details and the step by steps.
I am definitely leaning towards the integrator side of things. The money isn't always in front. A lot of
Yeah.
times the money is the second person that comes along, right? So unless you're a disruptor in the digital, the money isn't always the first person to market. The money is the one who is most effective and really got the market. And that includes understanding your wastes and everything else. So sometimes doing it right and really identifying what those details are. And you're right, like maybe we can push that out to someone else as an employee, but learning how to create your systems first and then pushing that out so someone else can take away some of that repetitive work. You continue to be that in visionary and we create the structures so that you can manage your integrators.
Absolutely. And I definitely know there are a lot of entrepreneurs that struggle with that, well, being both. There's very few people that do both efficiently. And I think that, that is definitely something that that hit my head. That's not even what I was planning on talking about. I was wanting to talk about I was wanting to talk about personal development and just, the why of personal development, because like I said, this is obviously the first show we're doing. So I wanted to kind of lay the foundation on why I think shows like this are important, and you know just really pushing into your own personal development and learning things that yes, school's great and there's lots of things that you can learn from school, but really adding on to that with details from other people who have been there, done that, and have skills that maybe you don't have. And I think that being able to establish that into a show like this is important, because I get questions all day long, like literally all day long on different things. And it's really hard to approach that on a one off situation. I mean, it doesn't, pay very well, first of all. So if I can kind of, pull together, information in a bulk situation where people are still getting those questions answered by lots of professionals, because I don't have all the answers. I've got some answers and the rest of them I have no idea. So bringing in other professionals to really address these questions, because, well, both of I'm sure, when you're first starting out as an entrepreneur or as a super small business, your funds are very limited. So being able to bring in a professional to fill all of these holes, while that would be wonderful, is not realistic. So being able to approach it in such a way to where you're able to get the information to start implementing something, not implicating, or implementing something yourself, now, until you're able to bring in the revenue to be able to push that on to somebody that maybe can do it, a little bit better. So, I mean, Jeff, I know you kind of mentioned that you have a background in digital. And I know, for example, I don't know if you consider yourself an expert in Twitter, but compared to me, you're an expert in Twitter. I get on there, I forget I have Twitter, and every once in a while, I'll get on there and post. I'm like, I'm still alive, I'm here. So can you kind of even talk about, when you started developing your app, did you like watch videos? Did you do any type of personal development to learn the skills to do that?
So I'm one of those people that I think kind of learns from as much as I can learn, and then has, I think, a very good instinct in terms of, I've always believed more in the more you're actually immersed in something, you can actually impact it more. So I think the fact that, yes, I consider myself an expert in Twitter, and it comes from literally doing it and pretty much wading into it for the last 5+ years, and in a lot of hours. I mean, my screen time app can attest to that. So I think when I was working for most recently a $1 billion company, and they then tend to outsource and trust agencies more who can write fun copy but don't necessarily understand how engagement works. Writing something and walking away is not how engagement works. And just expecting something to be reacted to isn't how engagement works. It's part of building up something and a relationship, and then reacting to that and giving back. So a lot of what I've done, and my ability to be able to say, run a sweepstakes for a client that I was doing, and having the hashtag trend top 10 without putting any money behind it, right? Versus, agencies that can spend sometimes tens of thousands or $100,000 behind it and not have the same level of success. It comes from just the fundamentals of really understanding the platform. And I think a lot of times people rely on the 20-year-olds who, because they think young means they understand social. And I don't think that matters. I don't think that's an accurate direction to head in. It's the people that have the experience. It's still the same fundamental things. It may not be the older people that they want to listen to or watch, but that doesn't mean that it's not the same fundamentals that go into building the actual content that's going to be able to react to.
Absolutely. and I know, like, I've heard people say that, like, well, we need to get some of the millennials in here. And I mean, there's lots of things. Obviously, the millennials do amazing, and the younger generations do amazing. But I think I agree with you on the fact that having the experience layered in there, along with being able to learn those skills, I think is, an important part. And I'm a lot like you. I'm definitely one of those people that I like kind of like the bullet points on how to do things, and then I want to just dive in and try, because if I just study it, it is going to fall right out of my brain, and I'm not going to remember most of it anyway. So I really need to kind of immerse myself into it as well. I'm a lot like you. What about you, Angela? Are you more the type of person that learns a little bit about it and dives in and tries it, or are you more the person that sits back and learns all the things about it before you try it? Because
Definitely not all the things, but maybe more than you two.
yeah, I feel like you would be more number 2. Like, I can see you, just knowing you the way, as well as I do, that I would see you being the person that you're wanting to check the boxes, all the boxes. I know these things, and I'm more like, okay, I've got a basic understanding. I'm not going to die from trying this. I'm just going to jump head first. That's more my personality, which sometimes that works out and sometimes it's terrible. But that's kind of, I think that shows again just the differences in personalities. And I think that why personal development is so important is because no matter which one of those two personalities you are, personal development is a win, because it's giving the people who just want kind of the bullet points, Cliff Notes version, and they just want to like dive in and try it themselves, the information that they need to go ahead and get started. And it's also giving the people that are collecting all the information, kind of adding it up, more information. So I think that, that's really something that can really appeal to both ends of that spectrum, in my opinion, anyway.
So Maria, while I talk about all my detail type thing, this is really the focus of my research for my doctoral dissertation, right? So how you learn is a big deal, and there's a lot of science associated with experiential learning, and a lot of people want to put these boxes. I learn by my hands, I learn by my eyes, I learn by my ears, and what we know is that nobody learns in a single vacuum. You don't learn just from your hands. You don't learn just from reading a book. What we learn is a little bit of this and a little bit of that and applying it over and over again. Do some people want to have a few more details before they jump in? Yes. But that's actually not the learning process. The learning is coming through the doing. So I encourage people to accumulate the information as they go, but you have to be building that experience. You learn from those mistakes, those small adjustments. That's what's actually causing the mind mapping. And that's what is really driving the actual neuroscience of learning. So kind of saying one person this or one person that, it's a misnomer. It doesn't really fit in the way the brain is. It just feels like it.
I misnomer it a lot because I do. I say that a
That's
lot.
that's what I'm here for. I will unmisnomer you.
Yeah, she's like, by the way, that's not actually accurate. You sound like my son. I have an 11-year-old that he's always saying that stuff to me. Well, actually, mom, if you
You keep
read
me
here,
honest.
yeah. So it's funny. I mean, there is so much to. I mean, and honestly, see, you just taught me right here. So in like what 2 minutes, I was like, oh, okay, I never thought about it like that, and it makes sense. It does make sense. Um, so I know, Angela, I've heard you speak about fail forward. You kind of mentioned about failing and learning as you go, or making mistakes. I also think that is a big part of what a lot of people should be talking about, is the fact that you know failing is normal. And I think more people are starting to talk about it now, but failing is normal. And failure doesn't mean like life altering failures. It could be like, oh,
Right.
I tried to click this button, it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. Well, now I know it doesn't work like that, type of thing. Because I think the word failure sometimes just has this such a negative connotation to it, like failure. But really it's just, I clicked this and it didn't do what I thought it did. So well, that was a, quote unquote fail, but didn't like end my world, type of thing.
Right.
So can you mention, I mean, just kind of talk a little bit about that. That way people can kind of get kind of an overview of, what you speak on.
Sure. Yeah. We learn from failing. So what we know is that when little kids they misspeak, right? Like we have family stories of those cute little words that the kid tried to say and it came out completely differently, and everybody remembers, but that kid remembers how to say it the correct way. Like that's literally the language development in the brain. And frankly, that learning style doesn't change all the way through our entire lives. We just begin to get better at picking up the cues before we make the mistakes, maybe, right? Like even if you're on the way. So in my talk about failing forward, we're really just talking about step boldly, get the information that you can get, and then step to the edge and figure it out and adjust as you go. And if you make a little adjustments, a little bit, you'll get there in a way that's still stretching yourself to grow, but you're not hanging yourself, right? So what's that, finding that little tension that's associated with learning, adjusting, learning, adjusting. The hot word of 2020 was pivot, pivot, pivot. I think that's the same thing. We got here, we saw that we weren't exactly where we wanted to go, so we changed direction a little bit. So you can either fail boldly or you can make a whole series of tiny little mistakes, but that is actually how we're learning and growing. And it is actually the building steps to success. So I can say make a bunch of failures, but that's actually where you're succeeding, right? I write all the time. I'm a prolific writer, I guess, at this point in my life. I don't know how that happened, but I've never written an email that doesn't have to go back and have some typo fixed in it or something. You can call that a failure if you want, because I'm learning from it, but it's just a part of it. It's a part of getting better. It's a part of the excellence process. So,
oh, yeah. I mean,
Go.
right, they say Thomas Edison, right, failed 1,000 times before building the prototype of the light bulb. And then when he was asked, what did it feel like to fail 1,000 times? He says, I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was just an invention of 1,000 steps. And it's like, I don't, even as a comedian, right? Even when I think about like anytime I've ever learned anything, you never learn anything when they actually laugh. It's the horrible shows that go horribly wrong and that are the nightmares that haunt you for the rest of your life. That's what you learn from those. Not that everything needs to be a nightmare, but you don't learn from the good things because there's nothing really tangible to understand what all the pieces that came in together to make it that perfect. But when something goes wrong, you can self-reflect and figure out, okay, this is where things went wrong and don't do that again.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I race.
Pain's a teacher, right?
Yes. I race triathlons and reasonably successfully, but there's always a story, right? Something I did wrong, something could have gone better, the weather, the waves, the this, the other. But I won a race one time, like flat out, I won. There was nothing to talk about. I was like, it was almost anticlimactic. I mean, it was awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like, I ran across the finish line first, and then I was like, I guess it's time to go home now. Like, it was so strange in comparison to like I could have done. Like, I'm always adjusting and reevaluating and thinking about what I could have done better next time. And then I'm like, okay.
Right.
So
I always found some of the greatest values I brought to jobs that I would go to after were the failures from the last job. Like, oh, don't do that. We did that. It was a disaster. You know what I mean? It's like, but you don't know until you try. You know what I mean? It's like, or you don't foresee something that, I worked at a promotions company, and they gave away free popcorn and like a coupon, and it was through this digital coupon thing. And I'm going back when this was newer technology, and it got replicated. And because it was free, all of a sudden there was 1 million of them out there. And free is bad. Free times the number of things is the cost. We're like a BOGO, a buy one get one. You can minimize your risks. So it's like there was like things like that where it seemed fine, everyone was behind it, and then you realize, oh boy, that sometimes the negative that comes out of something isn't necessarily something wrong you did. It was how someone was able to manipulate or push through it that you then ruins it for everyone else in the future.
Yeah. But it gives you your boundaries. Like it gives
Right.
you things that you didn't even know needed to be a boundary. That's been a lot of my experience with, things that have been kind of what I consider failures. It's, a lot of those were that, oh, I didn't foresee this even being an issue, that I needed that boundary, but apparently I need that boundary, type of a thing.
Right.
So when you developed your app, was it a lot of failed processes, or was it just like, well, like when Angela says she won and she was just like, wow, that was just like I did all the things amazing. I mean, was it just like a miracle that happened and everything, lined up perfectly, or was it a bunch of learning steps in between?
There were definitely lots of learning steps, and it was redesigned multiple times. There was, that's right, Jess Paul. And then,
Yep.
I love Jess Paul.
yeah, she's the best. You can, Jess Paul is going to guest on my live show on Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern.
That's awesome.
Anyways, so, oh, the app. So, it was interesting. Like one of the features of the app that I did was I was really interested in having the app be kind of a learning tool to bring people in and get them to understand how to tweet into these premises, the hashtags. And one of the things early on that we did was there was like a leaderboard. So we actually, every time you tweeted based on the responses to your tweets, it would kind of score and then create like a top 10. And the idea behind that was, well, if you can see who the best are and the people getting the best reaction, you can learn from those people. What I didn't anticipate was how horribly jealous and vindictive people can be of people that they feel are doing better than them when they don't understand why or think it should be them. And so that in itself, the good intentions of that original feature or part of the app, was eventually removed completely. It had to be, so because it went horribly wrong, but it wasn't something. It was meant to be. It had all the good intentions behind it, but and everyone seemed to think it was a good idea. But sometimes you never know when you put something out and like you talk to 50 100 people and they look at the basis of an idea, but then it gets exposed to thousands and thousands of people. You start to quickly get much different opinions and reactions than you may have expected, and you got to be ready to pivot off that.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I mean, ready to pivot. And I mean, some of it obviously ends up being a bunch of BS because people are just being hateful. But I know some of it for me, I use as, constructive criticism and feedback to help me kind of change. Cause, there's been different, well, we'll use the podcast, for example. I was newer to the podcasting. I knew nothing about podcasting when I started. So it was the very beginning, it was a bumpy road. So, I would get critiqued on, oh, you should do that. Or, oh, don't do that type of thing. And, to me that's good criticism, but I've luckily not had to deal with a whole lot of the hate stuff yet. Hopefully that doesn't happen because I might cry, but they people can be vindictive and hateful, but I really think that for the most part people are usually trying to give constructive criticism and such, and we can use that to be able to kind of grow and change. Last year I wanted, speaking of just kind of the failures and pivoting, last year what do you think, as far as like how it affected your business? Did it affect your business? Jeff, I'll let you go first. Did it affect your business in a positive way, a negative way, or was it kind of neutral, didn't really change it much?
um well, as a comedian, it completely
Yeah, well, that
halted
one.
that industry for everybody. For the app side, the business side of the company, we had a lot of clients that punted, and we're still kind of recovering. I'm probably, yes, there was a large revenue loss there. But on the flip side, it gave us the opportunity to really kind of dive into new technology and expand everything while people weren't buying anyway, right? So we kind of focused that, and we're pretty much near now have completely re-evolved the entire company, called #Stampede. And I did have a day job during that time as well, and yet that while the business itself did fine or wasn't heavily impacted, my role was eventually eliminated due to COVID. So personally, that impacted me there. So I had kind of like three threads going, and I started the podcast during this time.
Yeah.
So that's the tale of Jeff Dwoskin.
There you go. Good stuff. Now, I mean, I think that's been a lot of people's tales. Like, I know for me, it ended up being at the very beginning, people couldn't pay Because we had a lot of restaurants and we had some bars and some pub. Well, they're not making any money, so they can't pay their bill. So, it ended up being a lot of that. But then, like you mentioned, it ended up opening it up different doors that had been stuff that we had kind of tabled as being something to look at, but we didn't have the time to look into it. Then all of a sudden we had all this time, that, we were able to kind of, the old saying, make lemonade out of lemons, type of thing. What about you, Angela? Like, how did that, I know you work for another company as well, but I mean, as far as your business, how did that affect it?
Yeah. So it's really getting off the ground as far as the knowledgepreneur part of it. So I really took the opportunity, since there was nothing else to do. My side hobby is also playing a musical instrument, and unfortunately, the only thing I played in 2020 was hospice care events. So that was not nearly as much fun as festivals usually. So I spent a lot of time really putting all of my speeches and my knowledge and my workbooks together, and the draft of my journals are ready to go. So I didn't spend a lot of time chasing customers at the moment. I spent a lot of time prepping and doing all the things that needed to be done so that you can be at the starting gate ready to go.
Absolutely. And it's nice to see you again too. We've got comments coming in here and there. Apparently it's fixed up. I did a live show or two live shows last week and I couldn't see my comments for whatever weird reason. So anyway, but it's fixed now, so that's good. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of been the same thing with there's been a lot of good things that has come out of it as far as I was calling it the great pause, which I heard other people calling it that, and I thought I made it up, but maybe I didn't. I don't know. I was calling it that in March. I was like, I made this up. I'm so proud of myself. Yay, Maria. And then I heard other people saying, I was like, oh, maybe I didn't. So, but yeah, I was calling it the great pause because for the longest time, well, when you're used to doing steps 1 through 10 every day, and then all of a sudden you're not, I went through this like what do I do every day now? Like what do I do? Because all my steps were just completely washed away, and all of a sudden my kids were home, which that's a whole nother story for another day. But it was so different that I was kind of like shell shocked, honestly. But I had to kind of get myself in check and kind of say, okay, well, what can I control for the day? Because that's a big thing. I can have some anxiety issues if I allow myself. And I had to put myself into a mindset place to say, okay, well, I can't control what's going on everywhere else. I can't control any of that crap. So what can I control for today? And a lot of that ended up being a lot of, mindset development, a lot of, listening to great podcasts and watching great shows and, reading great books and just really trying to fill myself up with a little bit more positivity and more, more knowledge and more skill sets that, when things started to line up again, or I formulated what my new plan was, I could hit the ground running. But, I think for a lot of people, the stress is still kind of lingering there. Like I said, I'm still getting messages like, well, we're still stuck in this in the middle of COVID and I'm not sure what to do. I'm thinking I'm going to have to give up my business. And, they're just stuck in this place of uncertainty. And I know that's a terrible place to be, but we're getting kind of deep here, but I wouldn't plan on that either. But, one thing that I can tell somebody if they're kind of in that place is, find just one thing, one focal point, one thing that you can control, one thing that you can learn, one thing that you can utilize later, because, those ups and downs happen, those fell forwards, those, you got to have the fell before the forward. So you got to have all those learning moments, those moments of, pain and uncertainty before you can really even really succeed. Like I don't remember which one of you said it, but before you can succeed. And I think that is so true. And, that's one of the reasons I really wanted to do this show and bring on amazing people like you all and to help me with it. And, I'm excited about some of the guests that we have coming up because, you know, what they have to say and what they have to teach. I'm hoping that people can just soak it in like a sponge and say, okay, well, I don't know what to do about the world that seems like it's burning down around us all the time. I don't know what to do about that, but I can do this. This I can do. I can do this right now, type of thing. And that's kind of my goal with that. So
Very cool.
Maria's speech for the day.
Well done.
I'm the queen of segue, as well, probably both of you know by now. So, but yeah. So, I mean, we'll keep it at about an hour each time and just kind of for everybody that doesn't know, just laying the foundation on what the future shows are going to look like is one or all of us don't know, how many of us at this point will be on with a guest who's going to come on and, teach a valuable skill for entrepreneurs and business owners for free to be able to, utilize and something that they can literally put to use in their business like right then. And that is, my goal and Jeff's goal and Angela's goal and Ray at the doctor's goal. And, is to be able to do that our way to kind of give back to all the entrepreneurs and the business owners that is, aren't sure exactly what all they need to do. And creative people find creative ways to survive. Yes, they do. They do. And I think that where's my button? There it is. I think that is the key is just, survival again kind of has those negative connotations to it, but survival, you know, just means being resourceful. So, in again a world of uncertainty, you have to look at you might not be able to do all the things, but you can do some of the things. And what can you do? Be resourceful and try to figure it out from there. And that's what, our goal is to help. And thank you. So, see, somebody liked my segue deep speech.
It was very powerful. You should make someone right now is making it into a meme.
Hold on. Let me
It's got a pretty background. It's on Instagram right now somewhere.
It only takes a second.
Well, I'm very excited to see that.
But yeah, but yeah, I mean, I know that most of us have worked in different industries, and so we have this different perspective. And I think that is literally at the heart of resourcefulness, as far as I'm concerned. As far as that's at the heart of resourcefulness is, you've been able to do different things and you've seen things from a different perspective and from a different level. And I've quoted several times that I grew up, with no money. I mean, we didn't have any money. You have to be resourceful because you can't just go out and buy it, right? So resourcefulness can be looked at as a negative thing, but I consider it positive. Wouldn't have considered it a positive thing then when I couldn't go and get the things at the mall that my friends could go get, but now I look back and I'm thankful that we didn't have the money to do all the things because I definitely had to think outside of the box. So I think that, for business owners that are kind of going through this moment where they don't have the funds they did to do what they used to do or whatever it may be, and it seems super sucky right now, 10 years from now, you may be looking back and this is the pivoting moment where everything started to happen because you had to peel away the things that weren't the needle movers and things that weren't working for you. And you only had the time and the resources to focus on, the things that were. So what, I mean, I know, I feel like I'm the only one.
There's
talking.
Tag
your it.
Well, you're the leader. You were talking.
But then there's this awkward, but like a pause because I don't want to talk the whole time. It's like
we didn't want to talk. We were just so I was taking in everything you were saying. It's yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, you learn and everything that you come from shapes you and how you do things moving forward. So we always have to be respectful, I think, of the past. You have to be respectful of the past. That just became an Instagram meme.
That is. You have to do a post or it won't work.
That's a good one. Oh, you need a meet. Oh.
Yeah. You don't want my picture on there. You want to.
I think that one's one to do.
Yours is more likely to go viral, Maria.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Totally, Maria. So I'm struggling with how much forehead I have with this camera.
My forehead looks normal.
I don't know.
My forehead that's not normal. I'm telling you, I told you this before we went on air. My sister calls my forehead a two-head. She says I don't have one, and it really, really affects me. I'm telling you.
Well, it's just because how you see yourself as how you used to be, and like in high school, like my hair was down to here, right? I had really long hair, what you would maybe call a mullet, and but so it's like when I see it, I just don't see it. You know what I mean? So, and I don't think this light reflecting off my forehead is doing me any favors. And that's why I wear a hat in most of my interviews. But then Maria makes fun of my hat, so I stopped wearing my hat. So
I didn't make fun of the hat. I don't remember what I said. I just quoted it. But no, I mean, I think you can bring the mullet back. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but it's
no.
thing now.
No.
Jeff, you can add your hat to my personal Instagram. I have unapologetic wearer of hats on Not my work one. My personal one is I love hats. I'm a big hat fan. So,
Yeah.
But
but I think, we were talking about resourcefulness, and it's probably an appropriate week to also just talk about in general diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think it's a real challenge sometimes for us as entrepreneurs because you're just trying to survive. You're not necessarily looking how to give a hand up necessarily until you get through those first couple steps, because your first step is survive, maybe a little bit of success before you're able to maybe step outside yourself and start looking for how you can help and bring others along with you. And I think resourcefulness, it's one way to have that conversation. We were talking about millennials and what does it look like. I think you can start taking these steps away instead of putting people in boxes and labels. If you start looking at um, your statistics, your statistics instead of descriptors. And I
Yeah.
think it's easy when we're entrepreneurs to gravitate towards people who look like us, people who think like us, but that's not necessarily the strongest business sense. And it's not in my personal opinion, is also not socially the best way to go either. But we know that when we're getting inputs from all different parts, it actually ends up making us stronger, and it ends up making our business more resilient in the long run by having different voices and different perspectives coming in. So one of our opportunities is also to look outside ourselves to invite those voices.
I agree.
I
And
agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, you hit the nail on the head, the perspective. I think that's the key to a lot of things.
It's I would say I was always open to that, but you don't realize when you're not doing it because I think a lot of it's just how you grow up, right? And what I mean is like I wasn't raised not to listen to voices, but in the area that I grew up, it was you're around a lot of people like yourself. It was
Yeah.
interestingly enough, I always tell the story is like when I finally realized that my perspective of the world was very skewed to like how I was raised and such was when I served jury duty. And I served jury duty and we all sat there and we watched the same thing. It's very similar, I guess you could say, to what's going on right now in the world. But like we all watched the same thing and we all went back into the room and to deliberate. And I was the forum. I was the main guy. Like, not don't be impressed. I just said I would do it.
You were chosen.
But well, I did say I'll do it, and they did elect me. But
Yeah.
but it was like anyway. So it was cool. But like once everyone started giving their perspective of the exact events that I had just seen, and I was pretty clear on what I felt and believed. Then I was like, I realized really quick. I was like, wow, I grew up in such a way that I wouldn't have even thought of any of these point of views. And it was very eye opening. It made me realize you got to talk to more people. You have to not just be in your inner circle. If you watch the movie The Social Dilemma that's on Netflix right now, it actually negatively reinforces everything that you just said was so important, and it feeds us information that's like-minded to how we think, so that we think the world thinks like we do because we're algorithmically being served up the same messages over and over again from like-minded people. And that's why you have people that are on such different sides of the fence, is we're being manipulated. I mean, as unique and strong as we all think we are, we're all very much the same, generic and easily manipulated,
No, I agree.
myself included. And so, it's important, and it's like social media didn't make us more social. It actually worked against all the good things that Angela was just talking about. So
And I think we can see that a little bit in I have teenagers, and I mean I love my teenagers, but they've obviously grown up with social media where we didn't. And I mean there's positive things from every generation. I'm not saying there's not, but that's one of the things that I've noticed is, everything is different. The way they make friends is different. The way they interact with friends is different. The way they date is different. Like everything is just so different. I mean, I guess our parents probably said the same thing, but our parents were probably having these same conversations, not on StreamYard, but these same
Right.
conversations.
They did it over the phone. Hello, hello. Is is Maria there? Jess
Yeah.
Paul has 3 ground up businesses. So you should check out her website. It's pretty cool. She makes these food things. It's
She's
pretty
so
very cool.
talented.
Very
So
talented.
yeah. Yeah, she stays busy though, because I was like staring at some of her stuff. I was like, oh, and she was like, I'm so busy though, I don't have time to do a lot of stuff. And I'm like, darn. So because she does some really, really good work.
And some killer YouTube videos.
Yeah, and she's super cute, and we love her. We love you, Jess.
Yay,
So
Jess.
yay, Jess. Let's become the Jess show. Woo. But no, I mean, I agree with all that. I think for me, being able to not jump to how I perceive things has been one of my biggest things. Because I don't like, I very much feel that life is all perspective. So, with that being, a solid foundation of my entire belief system, I try not to automatically react to anything and just kind of sit back and watch and play things out. But I mean, I agree with you, Jeff, that, you know, the ads that pop up, I mean, it's hilarious. Some of them that pop up, it makes me really wonder the algorithms that they have on me, because some of the ads that I get are really off the hook. They're kind of like, okay, well, this one's interesting, but this one is questionable. Why do you think I love this? Yeah, type of a thing. But you know, I you could everything can be used for good or evil. Nothing's 100% bad and nothing's 100% good. So, if we're utilizing social media for business, in a healthy, responsible way, that's great. If you're utilizing social media to, tear other people apart because of your perspective only and not knowing their perspective, I think obviously that's where things get terrible. But
Yes. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I've had to snooze people. I've tried not to really block people, but yeah, it's been a divisive time, and hopefully it doesn't get worse in the next couple days, but we'll see.
I think people are just afraid. Fear causes anger, and then people, when they're afraid, they get more angry, and then they just spew things out because they're so afraid about what's going to happen. And I don't know. It's just this is really segueing now away from business. Just don't do that in your business. How about that? We'll bring it back around. Bring it back around.
So one of the books that I really like to recommend when I'm talking about leadership is from Bowman and Deal. And they talk about 4 different types of perspectives in their book. It's called Reframing Organizations, Artistry, Choice, and something else. And maybe I should drop it in the link or something like that. But they talk about looking at an event from a pageantry perspective. Like, what's the theater value, right? Like when we talk about sports, watch those guys entering the field and whatever, and fireworks and smoke, and it's all about the theater. Like, you're not just paying to watch 5 guys play basketball on each team, right? You're paying for everything else that goes along with it. And then the another one is like your structure, the organizational structure. What's the power play? Are you from a command and control, like patriarchal type society? Are you from a matriarchal matrix type organization? Understanding what the power plays are. So there's 4 different ones that they talk about, and you can really spiritual's another one, and the other one is I always forget the 4th one. I always have to look it up.
That one doesn't matter.
I think that one, it's probably the one that I use all the time, right? That I forget it. But sometimes, like when I'm struggling to understand what's going on, maybe there's a power play at the office or something, taking a step back and saying, hey, if I look at it here, 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 and here, what do I see? Does it look differently? Like, it gives me the tools to try to look at it differently. So, yeah.
Jess said that we're nice. Yes, we are very nice, and I'm glad you're enjoying the discussion. We're pretty nice.
Maria's pretty nice. I'm just an engineer.
I'm gonna have to come equipped with more books. I'm gonna have to start doing more of that reading thing.
Wait a minute. Those come in adult form too, not just like the fairy tales.
Some of them actually have pictures. You can just go through the.
All right, man. I wish I could have coffee and just listen to you guys. Well, do it, buddy. We're gonna be here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I don't know how to say your name. Is it Rajiv? I feel like I'm
Rajiv.
Is
Rajiv.
it Rajiv or so it's pronounced as a J and not an H?
Usually a J.
Every time he's commented, I've been like, I don't know how to say his name. I don't want to. And then I decided, well, he's commented again, so I'm gonna have to just butcher it, and maybe he can. So it's Rajiv. Okay, we're gonna say Rajiv. Angela said, so if it's wrong, you'll have to tell us.
Blame me.
Yes,
That's how my friends say it. So
Yeah. Well, I've seen I've seen Rahiv and Rajiv both spelled like that, but actually the Rahiv had 2 eyes, so maybe that changes it. I don't really know.
Right. It's like your name, Mariah.
Yeah, I actually get called Mariah a lot. Even though Maria is one of the most popular names in the entire globe, but I still call Mariah. I've got a friend who he says it all the time. He knows my name's Maria. He still calls me Mariah. So we've just decided to just go with it. So,
do you want a name story? I have a name story. So my youngest daughter's name is Emma. And so when you're picking names, right, it's very important. You gotta really kind of think about what the name is going to be of your kid, right? And so our first kid, we had kind of, in the Jewish religion, you name after people who have passed away, and we kind of covered everyone with the first child. So it's like with the second child, we had, we have full reign here. So we decided we're going to go with Emma, which is a pretty name, but wasn't very popular, like Madison or something like that. And so you're listening now going, Jeff, that's been the number one name for almost 15 years. Yes, it is. But at the time we named her Emma, we come home 2 weeks later, Ross and Rachel named their daughter Emma on Friends.
Wow.
and it goes from like this very pretty, unique, name to the most popular name since that exact moment occurred, which was 2 weeks after we named her. So yeah, names are, that's it. There you go. That was a little story. It's not a book, but it's
no, it's good. It could be part of a book. You could write a book
right
and include that in it, and then it would be a book.
Oh, Rajiv is from the Philippines. Nice.
That's nice. And we must have said his name, or Angela must have said his name right, because he didn't say we didn't. So we're going with that is now your name. It is sold.
I dropped the link. If you want to see that, it'll take you to an Amazon. I don't get any.
It looks scary and like spam, but it's real. You can click it.
It is real. It's directly from me. I don't get any money from it. It's just a book that I think is worth the read. It's a little dry. Hit the highlights.
Is that the nice
a dry book from an engineer? What?
In a doctoral program on leadership.
Yeah.
Hey, I got all the exciting stuff over here. Give me a call.
Yeah, I would need the cliff notes probably. I'd be like, okay, give me the highlights. I'll be like, which I skim read anyway, which sometimes is wonderful because you can get through a book really fast, and sometimes it's not. You miss it.
This one has a couple tables. If you skip to the tables, they're worth the tables.
There we go.
Hey, look, we got love for Ranji here.
Yeah,
we nailed it.
Good job.
That would be all my years of grad school with Indian colleagues.
There you go. So congratulations. I would have not known, because that's why I don't know, like 4 comments before that. I was like, I didn't want to like offend him by completely butchering it.
But. Right. Maria would have been great if his name was like Chad or something.
Yeah, that's my husband's name, so I could pronounce that one. I probably would have said it with some attitude though, because he's usually in trouble. So Chad. But
I did not know that was her husband's name. So that
I thought it was hysterical whenever they were talking. This is not business, but we're wrapping up, people, so we can talk about whatever now. So it was hilarious when they were talking about Karens, and then the male version of that became Chad. So every meme that I would see where I was talking about Chads, I would screenshot it and send it to my husband. He didn't think it was funny, but I did. So.
No, I think that's a great story. Let me say, like, I think business, it's important in business to have some human element, like some of this kind of, right, and to share things and be humorous. And there's the LinkedIn post world is not the reality of the world. Nobody posts in comments like that and all that kind of things. It's like this weird version of how people want you to think they are, and nobody's like that. Nobody talks in quips and marketing jargon and managerese 24/7 at work. And if you do, nobody probably wants to be around you. So it's like
No,
it's
that's
like
actually true. Yeah.
so it's like you gotta be, there's a human side to all this, and being who you are, because ultimately the way you get things done is not by your business acumen and how well you can prioritize your tasks. It's how well you can earn somebody's trust, and you can only do that on a human level, not and have them trust you as a person, and the way you think and all that kind of stuff, and the way you make them feel, and if you make them laugh. If you want to be successful with cross teams and all that kind of stuff, it's just as much, in my opinion, about that as it is about knowing what you're doing.
I absolutely agree. And actually, that's one of the things, like even on my LinkedIn, you mentioned LinkedIn, in my little subject line, I have something about I come in and help humanize your company, because that's one of the things I talk about. I talk about, utilizing your own personality to really, get that know, like, and trust going with not only your clients, but your team and everything. And, because I've been in a lot of companies, and it's starting to get a little bit better in the professional world. But for the longest time, it was frowned upon to have any type of personality, like you mentioned, at all. Like you had to be just like businessy and professional, and somehow professional couldn't mean fun, and professional couldn't mean funny, and professional couldn't mean witty, and professional had this like one definition that everybody was supposed to put their mask on, of their professionalism and follow. But to me, professionalism, can have several definitions. And at the end of the day, it's being able to show up, real and authentic, and do your job, whatever your job is, to the best of your ability.
Right.
I do feel like even in manufacturing, and we're really slow with change, right? That people are starting to accept that humans are humans, and we need to bring that human element in. And, to your point, Jeff, right? Like we have to have a little bit of humor. So I started it's not really a hashtag, but I call it a hashtag. We call it Hump Day Humor. And I'm just texting people on our leaders.
Did you put hashtag? Because if you put a hashtag, I'm pretty sure that is a hashtag.
I know, but I'm only texting people, so it doesn't really count. It's not on social media. I'm just texting random people on our leadership team horrible gifts, right? Like I have some, like Jib Jab does those things where you can stick your head in. So there's a pooping unicorn with colors. Like I would not put this out on just like the whole listserv or something, but random. I don't even text the whole leadership team. Just every Wednesday, some random jib jab to some random members of the leadership team, just to like, just to break up the week. And
No, that's it.
Right?
No, that's great. I have a really fun. You want to hear a funny story about that? Business related funny story about that. So back in the day, I had a web development company when that was new and fancy, and so let me take everyone listening, especially the millennials, back to a time where sound on a computer was an option that you had to really think about. Do I want speakers on a computer, or what would I use a speaker on a computer for? Do I need a CD player in a computer? I know now we don't have them anymore, but there was once a time where they did start to exist, and you had to decide when you were configuring your computer, do I want sound? Do I want to see? So I'm taking it back to this time, late 90s. And so I'm working for a company I built, was acquired. And so now we have people out of California that were part of our team and we're reporting into. And I'll describe her as very shy, very nice, non-assuming, just really nice. No, non-offensive, nothing. Sends us this is what reminded me of it, jibby jabby type thing of Santa Claus kind of bouncing around, right? And lo and behold, she didn't have sound on her computer, and we did. I won't swear, but it said, ho, ho, effing hoes, right? So this is like, she's from corporate, right? And when she found out what it was actually saying, she was mortified. And this is like almost 30 years ago. And every time I think about it, I laughed just as hard. It was just, if you can just think of like how mortifying it is. It was like, it was the most offensive thing. You know what I mean? It was from a business point of view. And like, so sometimes technology is not your friend, and bouncing funny characters are not always what they are meant to be. But that would be some hump day humor for you.
There you go.
That would absolutely be great hump day humor. And that would be the whole point of like maybe sending them in single channels instead of blasting it to the entire team.
Right.
Yeah. Rajiv says he wants to make a podcast with all of us because
Oh, wow.
thank you, Rajiv. That's why. Thank you. Like we're gonna get off here with like the biggest heads ever. Gosh, we're so good. Somebody needs to get on here and say something negative to bring us down off our high horse. So, because yeah, they're being too nice, too nice. I don't know.
Very
Maybe
nice.
it's a good thing.
Maybe you should end.
Stop now. Hurry.
And on a high note.
We're close enough to the end. That's the one thing you learned in comedy. Don't drag it out. You get the big laugh, you walk off.
There you go. There you go. No, it is almost time to start wrapping it up. So I know Ray Baxter, Coach Ray Speaks, I think is his website. So you can look him up and see all his awesome stuff that he has going on. And Jeff, you can go ahead and tell people where they can reach out to you. And Angela, you can do the same.
Sure. For my, I'm the host of a podcast, a fun weekly podcast called Live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. That's at jeffisfunny.com. From a business point of view, if you need help with engagement on your Reddits, Instagrams, Twitters, or Facebooks, and I purposely did say those silly, the hashtag Stampede, those spelled out, hashtag stampede.com. You can reach me at Jeff at hashtag Stampede for that.
Cool. Yeah, Angela Buckley, and you can either find me at creativelyefficient.com or you can find me at strengthinnature.com, and that's really my leadership blog and coursework development site. So if you're looking for any help with overcoming the overwhelm or leadership development, I'm there for you.
Awesome. And it's been good talking to you. And I'm Maria Daniels. Successfully Chaotic is my podcast. And then Reset Business Consulting is my company. So you can find me there. So anything else you all want to say? Or are we just going to hightail it, like Jeff said, get out before somebody says anything?
I think
personal development, one little bit at a time.
There you go. I like that.
I think this is the greatest first episode of anything ever. So congratulations, Maria.
Good job, Maria.
So good
Congratulations, Mariah.
You all are great. I couldn't do it without you all. Ray, I'm sorry that he had to miss it because he would have been great on here too. I love talking to him. He's a good guy. So, all right. Well, we will talk to you all next week, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. businessaccelerationplaybook.com. We also have a Facebook page, businessaccelerationplaybook.com, that we are broadcasting to as well. So you can follow us on there. All right. Thanks a lot.
Yay.
Thanks. See you.
Awkward time to end now.